cash on me. Yeah, you know she capping, homie. Dread like that cap on me. Back then they napped on me. Now they all just act on me. Now I'm hot, they all on me. Pull out the Snapchats on me. I ain't got no Snapchat, homie. I think it's too personal. That's what I got Twitter for. Instagram, I'm back, yo. Back then they napped on me. Now they all just act on me. Now I'm hot, they all on me. Pull out the Snapchats on me. I ain't got no Snapchat, homie. I think it's too personal. That's what I got Twitter for. Instagram, I'm back, yo. Back then they napped on me. Now they all just act on me. Now I'm hot, they all on me. Pull out the Snapchats on me. I ain't got no Snapchat, homie.
Oh yeah.
Instagram, I'm back, yo. Like flex on you haters. Hi haters. This is my world, so it's all in my favor. I like all girls, yeah, all type of flavors. But that don't matter, cause I just got my baby. Put her right there, Mercedes. Oh, I don't wanna like the Navy. For that girl to the sun, done number one like I'm a great. Boy, you said that you made me. Go ahead and make another one. Do what I want, cause I'm trusting her. I'm a lover till the love is done. Took your girl, she ain't try to run. Hit from the back so her legs get numb. Hit from the back so long that my own legs start getting numb. Sucking me up, give me brain that she dumb. Terrorist repercussions. Play her just like a drum. Making a night when you making a month. Back then they napped on me. Now they all just act on me. Now I'm hot, they all on me. Pull out the Snapchats on me. I ain't got no Snapchat, homie. I think it's too personal. That's what I got Twitter for. Instagram, I'm back, yo. Back then they napped on me. Now they all just act on me. Now I'm hot, they all on me. Pull out the Snapchats on me. I ain't got no Snapchat, homie. I think it's too personal. That's what I got Twitter for. Instagram, I'm back, yo. Boy, you said that you made me. Go ahead and make another one. Do what I want, cause I'm trusting her. And I'm a lover till the love is done. Took your girl, she ain't try to run. Hit from the back so her legs get numb. Hit from the back so long that my own legs starting to get numb. No, I walk with the racks on me. Bad bitch want back, and you know she stole that ass on me. I don't want that girl cause she want me cause the cash on me. Yeah, you know she capping, homie. Dread like that cap on me. Back then they napped on me. Now they all just act on me. Now I'm hot, they all on me. Pull out the Snapchats on me. I ain't got no Snapchat, homie. I think it's too personal. That's what I got Twitter for. Instagram, I'm back, yo. Back then they napped on me. Now they all just act on me. Now I'm hot, they all on me. Pull out the Snapchats on me. I ain't got no Snapchat, homie. I think it's too personal. That's what I got Twitter for. Instagram, I'm back, yo. Back then they napped on me. Now they all just act on me. Now I'm hot, they all on me. Pull out the Snapchats on me. I ain't got no Snapchat, homie. I think it's too personal.
Kurwa, copyright strike. Zaraz poleci. I chuj. Chuj bombki strzelił, no. Tak mi dropią klatki w pizdę z tym. Dobra. Stop. Kurwa, tu się już odpierdala Majana i chuj. Oj, ja. Witam, dzień dobry. Dziś na live'ie poprawiam scenę w OBS-ie. I leciała muzyka, ale już nie leci. Włączę jakąś taką, którą można puszczać. O Jezu, ale jaja. Może być, co? Ojej. O Jezu, ale nic mi kurwa nie chodzi tutaj. Nie wiem właśnie o co chodzi. OBS Studio, Opera. How to stop getting dropped frames in OBS. Odcinek pierwszy. Może obejrzę tutorial i coś pomoże. Kurwa. Streaming dla początkujących. What's up, guys?
The biggest, best new thing with OBS 24.0 that I want to share with you guys is the ability to dynamically manage the bitrate so that you do not drop frames based on fluctuating bandwidth. I know it's a lot of big words, but hey, this is probably going to make your live stream much better. And I gotta show this to you, especially if you're new or you're not sure what your bitrate should be. This is a checkbox inside of OBS that you should know how to use. Let me show it to you guys. So here's my OBS Studio. I'm at OBS Studio 24.0. This is a release candidate. We support OBS on Patreon and Open Collective. If you're a big OBS user, I highly suggest that you support them there to help the development of the project. And this new feature is available in OBS 24.0. Not available on the website yet, but I'll give you the secret beta link below. Let me show you the new feature. So inside settings, this is in the advanced settings area. There's a whole bunch of new stuff that we need to be taking a look at. Now, the first thing in here, a lot of new stuff that I'm still even myself getting to learn about here is all about kind of maximizing the priority and the optimization of your computer. So you can see here process priority we can set to high. That's new or new-ish. I hadn't seen that before. We can also
kurwa, jakieś w ustawienia wejść tutaj. Dobrze, damy wysoki, ok. Zastosuj. Dalej.
So send some additional information with networking, and this is really important. We have the ability to bind to an IP. Now, this is really great because if you know what your computer's IP address is, you definitely want it to bind to the Ethernet connection as opposed to maybe unbeknownst to yourself using Wi-Fi, which doesn't have as good bandwidth access. This is all about bandwidth and making sure that OBS is optimizing the bandwidth that your computer has access to. Now, here is the new
Dynamically change bitrate.
Change bitrate to manage congestion.
Jak
You can
gówno
see actually as
wyglądać
soon
ten
as
stream.
we hover over that, a little message comes up and it says, instead of dropping frames to reduce congestion, it dynamically changes the bit rate on the fly. Now notice this can increase the delay to viewers. So if there's a significant sudden congestion, the bit rate will drop, and it can take a few minutes to restore. So what's happening there? And then also, I'll explain that in a second. And then we have enable new networking code, and then we have low latency mode. Now you don't want to use low latency mode with the dynamic bit rate. So let me explain to you why you would want to use one or two of these. So first of all, the first box that we checked it, dynamically change bit rate to manage congestion. This is ideal for you if you don't care too much about the latency, the time in between your stream and when it's getting to Twitch or Facebook or YouTube. Latency could be 60 seconds, depending on how long you hover over that. A little mess. Wi-Fi, which doesn't have P. Now, that's new or new-ish. I hadn't seen that before. We can also send some additional information with networking, and this is really important. We have the ability to bind to an IP. Now, this is really great because if you know what your computer's IP address is, you definitely want it to bind to the Ethernet connection as opposed to maybe unbeknownst to yourself using Wi-Fi, which doesn't have as good bandwidth access. This is all about bandwidth and making sure that OBS is optimizing the bandwidth that your computer has access to. Now, here is the new options here. Dynamically change bitrate to manage congestion. You can see actually as soon as we hover over that, a little message comes up and it says, instead of dropping frames to reduce congestion, it dynamically changes the bit rate on the fly. Now notice this can increase the delay to viewers. So if there's a significant sudden congestion, the bit rate will drop, and it can take a few minutes to restore. So what's happening there? And then also, I'll explain that in a second. And then we have enable new networking code, and then we have low latency mode. Now you don't want to use low latency mode with the dynamic bit rate. So let me explain to you why you would want to use one or two of these. So first of all, the first box that we checked it, dynamically change bitrate to manage congestion. This is ideal for you if you don't care too much about the latency, the time in between your stream and when it's getting to Twitch or Facebook or YouTube. Latency could be 60 seconds, depending on how long it takes to get from where you are to the Facebook Live servers, for example. Now, the good thing is that what's happening here is OBS is looking for drop frames, and it's saying, oh, no, you don't have enough bandwidth to support a 720p frame resolution by 60 frame per second stream at 5 megabits per second. Let's dynamically reduce the amount of bit rate. Think of bit rate as your pipeline, your internet connection, your upload speed to the internet. OBS will actually make it smaller so it stays more consistent and doesn't drop frames. Now, when your bit rate goes down, the quality of your stream does go down, but it's better than dropping frames and trying to push too much of a square peg through a round hole, if you know what I mean. So if you're not concerned if it's a church service or if it's a business presentation and you don't care if it's 5 or 10 seconds longer delay, this is going to be perfect for you, especially if you have maybe limited access to internet bandwidth. Now, we can enabling the new networking code, that checkbox, I don't know what that does. I'm going to ask some of the guys at OBS know about that and post about it in our Facebook user group. Low latency mode would be if you really want to have super low latency, the time in between your stream and the content delivery network, because you really care about that interactivity with your audience. Hopefully that was a good explanation. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, especially if you follow OBS.
No witam cię człowieku, tutaj kurwa nowy Danielkę, wpierdalasz na streamka, pozdro wariacie, dobry przekaz leci.
Systems together, and hopefully you found this helpful. I also have a book on OBS that maybe you might want to download for free.
For free, okay. Uczciwa cena.
That is very, very, very important, and that is that they never tell you what's actually wrong with your stream. Every single stream can be stuttering. CPU. If you're using hardware encoding like NVENC or AMD VCE, or talk about each type count and streaming to that, or you can attach bandwidth test equals true at the end of your stream key in OBS. This is just to make sure that your viewers don't running a test stream. Now you can run a test stream by either making a fake Twitch account and streaming to that, or you can attach bandwidth test equals true at the end of your stream key in OBS. This is just to make sure that your viewers don't see that you're live and think that you're actually streaming. Now when you're running a Twitch stream, have this stats menu up and take a look at it. Once you get stuttering, you're going to see one or more of these numbers go up. The number that goes up is going to tell you what your bottleneck is. All right, now you've done a test stream and you know what your bottleneck is. We're going to talk about each type of lag and things that you can try to fix it. I'm going to leave timestamps here, so if you're having one of these problems, you can just skip ahead to the part that's relevant to your situation. Okay. All right, let's talk about drop frames. Now, this could either be really easy to solve or really difficult to solve. There's only one number that matters in OBS, and that is your bitrate. Nothing else matters. I know you've probably seen another video that changing your resolution can help, or maybe changing encoder. OBS doesn't work like that. It's only your bitrate that matters. And all that you need to do is make sure that your upload speed is fast enough to support the bitrate that you put into OBS. All right, so all I need to do is go to speedtest.net and find out how fast my upload speed is. Wrong. I know every single video you've ever seen has told you use speedtest.net, and by all means, if you're having general internet problems, then yeah, go use that site. But that only tests your upload speeds to their servers. It doesn't tell you how fast your upload speed is to Twitch. So instead, we're going to be using a tool called Twitch Test, and what this does is it tests your upload speed directly to all of Twitch's servers. So this is the most accurate speed test you could ever do. So go into the description box down below, download Twitch Test, and run it. It's going to ask you for your stream key and then to select every server that you want to test. After that, just hit start and let it run for a minute. When it's done, you're going to see a bunch of numbers. What you're looking for is the server with the highest speed, the lowest round trip time, and the highest quality, as close to 100 as you can get. Once you have the speed, you just want to make sure that the bitrate you're looking for is the server with the highest speed, the lowest round trip time, and the highest quality, as close to 100 as you can get. Once you have the speed, you just want to make sure that the bitrate that you put in OBS is lower than the number you get in Twitch Test. I would say keep it to a max of like 80% of this number just to give it a little bit of headroom. Just don't go over 8,000 kilobits per second because Twitch hard caps you and none of your viewers will be able to watch your stream. Like literally, your viewers will just get a black screen. I've tried it before. You might also want to manually select the server that you want to connect to. By default, Twitch is set to auto, so it decides for you. So just go ahead and set that manually just to be sure you're connecting to the fastest server. And of course, all the general network troubleshooting stuff applies. So reset your router. Make sure all your network drivers are up to date. Or use Ethernet instead of Wi-Fi. Don't ever use Wi-Fi. But if you're 100% sure you've done all of that, and the speeds that you're getting on Twitch Test are nowhere near as fast as the speeds you're getting on speedtest.net, this might be the time where you have to call your ISP. I know the pain, I've been going through the exact same problem right now, and I've been calling my ISP for like 2 weeks straight. I've spoken to like 6 different people. It sucks. You might be having a similar problem. Hell, I've heard of some ISPs that intentionally throttle your upload speed, which could include sites like Twitch. So call your ISP and get them to sort that out for you. All right, let's talk about encoding lag. Now, right off the bat, I'm going to say this.
Ja chyba więcej z problemem już. Muszę włączyć streama i popróbować, ale...
It sounds dumb, but I've helped 2 people before, only to realize both of them had crypto miners running in the background, sucking up 70% of their CPU, and they didn't even realize it. Now, as for OBS settings, there's only 4 settings that you care about. Your output resolution, your frame rate, your encoder, and your preset. A lot of people seem to think that
Chciałem zrobić to samo, ale lubię
włączyć
stream i TP, więc staram się dla widzów, oczywiście lubię.
So the first thing you're going to try to do is dropping your output resolution. You can ignore canvas resolution for now. We're going to deal with that later. And basically what this does is it scales down your stream into a smaller resolution that is easier for your CPU to encode. For example, this is an example of a 1080p stream. And if we drop it down to 900p, this is what it looks like. And if we drop it even further to 720p, this is what it looks like. You see how much smaller that is? You see how much less work your CPU has to do now? This is why changing your output resolution is the first thing I recommend if you're getting encoding lag. The second thing I recommend is dropping your frame rate from 60 FPS to
kurwa mać.
30 FPS. It's pretty obvious what this does. It's just gonna halve the number of frames that your CPU has to encode. Here's some footage of Apex running at 60 FPS compared to 30 FPS. Can you tell a difference? Maybe, but look how much of my CPU usage that I've shaved off. Hell, if you're streaming on a potato, you might even want to go even further down from 30 FPS, just until you can afford a better PC. The next you can do is try changing your encoder. By default, OBS uses X264 or software encoding, which basically means it's using your CPU to do the encoding. The problem with this is that everything in computer uses your CPU, but if you're using a newish graphics card, you can use hardware encoding, which basically offloads all of the encoding load onto a dedicated chip on your graphics card. Now, because this is done on a dedicated chip, this is going to be completely separate from the part of your GPU that is used for running your games. Now, the hardware encoder for NVIDIA graphics cards is called NVENC, and for AMD cards, it's called AMD VCE. I don't have an AMD graphics card, so I don't have any experience with that, but from what I understand, it works
Możemy zaraz,
I would say that
ale
if you're
kurwa
ever
nie
getting skip frames,
na streamku mi
you should
net odpierdalał,
always
więc
use NVENC, because the performance impact is basically
a
zero.
było,
That's not
jak
going to be
zaczynałem
the case with
moją
X264
karierę
at all.
streamera, to było o wiele lepiej.
Won't give you
Normalnie
as good quality
grać
as
mogłem itp.
X264, but you're getting skip frames,
I
so
nic się
I
nie
wouldn't even
zaczynało.
worry about that right now. Plus,
Czyli
if you're
nie
using
dropiłem
the
klatki
NVENC
i było
encoder
okej,
on
a
a newer
teraz chuj.
graphics card like an RTX graphics card, the quality is actually really good. And then the last thing I recommend is to change your preset. This is going to apply for X264 and NVENC. Again, if you're using AMD, I don't know.
Dobra, mam inne problemy, już ja to oglądam dalej. Co teraz? Nie wiem, widzowie. Widzowie, robimy tak. Ze 2 na 5 minut wyłącza stream. I czekajcie tutaj, czekajcie, odświeżajcie stronę i ja zaraz będę, jo? Jo, to dobra, to git, dzięki.